Hello and good evening. Hello, good evening. I welcome you all to our masterclass today. I welcome all those who have managed to join us. Ivan and Lois, thank you for joining early. As we continue waiting for others, I will just have a brief introduction and then I will let in Gladys, who is our founder and who will be training us on today's masterclass, take over. My name is Vivian Wabwire. I'm an environmental and safety consultant and a sustainability training. Today, I want to introduce you to our masterclass, which is OSH Beyond the Basics. We are diving deep to understand how safety drives performance in operations. So we'll just have a quick fact or a few questions just for us to understand of today's ways and classes on how it is going to be organized. I'll just have a few facts. Use the chat just to suggest any answer that you are comfortable with. We are going to do this as we feel free to participate and give your views. Everyone has to feel comfortable throughout this whole session. We are welcoming all of us to participate, to be active. Don't just keep quiet. Welcome you to be part of this masterclass. So as I go through the safety myths and facts, I'll just welcome you to give anything you feel about in the chat. Okay, my first myth, I will go with safety slows down productivity. Productivity of the company, organization, or a business. If you agree with or disagree, you can just share in the chat. I encourage all of us to participate. Just give your feedback, what you think about it. Is that safety a myth or a fact? Safety slows down productivity. Okay, I can see Gladys has responded is a myth. Obvious is a myth. Safety does not slow down productivity, but it enhances, it helps to cut down on the cost that may be incurred during the risks that may occur. Okay, I will also share the second one. Is OSH only practiced in the factories and construction? What do you think about it? As a safety consultant or a safety expert, is OSH practiced only in factories or construction? You can share if it is a myth or a fact. Yeah, Ivan has shared it is a myth. OSH is practiced in all the workplaces. Gladys has also said it's a myth. Yeah, Ivan, your answer is correct. OSH is practiced in all the workplaces, not only in the factories and construction sites. Okay, I'll go to the third one. Every worker contributes to safety performance. What is the duty of a safety officer? What do you think? Hello and welcome, Samuel and Levis. I welcome you to today's masterclass. We have started somehow early. It's just an introductory part of it. We are warming up as we continue to welcome each and everyone on board. We are just having a few tips, myths, and conceptions about the safety spaces we are continuing to share. As we continue on, I will be sharing a few. You are requested to be active and to share your views on the chat box. Safety workplace means fewer interruption or better results. What do we think? If we have a safe workplace, will it mean we have fewer interruption and improve better results? It's true. I want to say thank you for all who are participating. I encourage all of us to be active, all of us to warm up for the session, just to be interactive, to give your views as we warm up to start our session in a few minutes. We are just waiting each and everyone to sign up. Samuel, Lois, Levis, Alvin, I welcome you all to our session. Feel free to participate. Feel free to add when any question is asked within the session as we go on.
Thank you.
I will be focusing on the myth and facts. You may only wear your PPE when the supervisor is watching. What do you think? Is it a myth or a fact?
Sounds like a myth to me.
You can give us a few backup on that. Why do you think it's a myth?
I think it's a myth because PPE is also, aside from it being a regulation and also company policy, it is also your responsibility to take care of yourself. And if you can only do it when your supervisor is watching, then that's wrong. You should be able to be responsible enough to take care of yourself.
Okay, thank you so much. That's a very good answer. It is like our lifestyle. Safety is a lifestyle in our workplace. We have to consider wearing our PPE. And then I will go on our last myth or fact. Near misses. Do it require to be reported or it can be assumed? Do we require to report the near misses or it can be assumed as a safety officer? What's your opinion?
I see no one else is answering, so I'll just go ahead and say what I think.
Okay.
They should be reported so that near misses means that when there is a near miss, it means that something happened, but it didn't. The event occurred, but there was no damage or injury. So it is important to report so that we can be more careful to have it as a near miss. It could be an event that has catastrophic consequences.
Yeah, it's very true. It has to be reported. If there is any amendment or work that has to be done to correct it so that it can happen instead of not reporting, and it may lead to a major hazard that may occur in the future. All the near misses, Alvin has said, all the near misses need to be reported, investigated, and corrected. Samuel said near misses should be reported. which is very true. Thank you so much for all that have participated in the myth and fact. So I will just go to a quick icebreaker. As we prepare and we wait for others to join, we are preparing to start at exactly at 7. I just want to get a few perspectives from each and every one of us, if it's possible. When you hear word OSH, what comes to your mind? A quick one, just one word or a small statement. What comes to your mind when you hear word OSH? You can speak out or you can just use the chat box. Yes, safety at workplace. Lois has said safety at workplace. That's what comes to her mind. Someone else? When you hear the word OSH, what comes to your mind? Alexandra says safety. Gladys says PPE, personal protective equipment. Samuel says compliance. As we have seen, so most of us, we have different answers regarding to what comes to our mind, and which is very good and diverse. The second question is, what safety habits do you practice every day at your work or at home? At least this one I should get from everyone. Just a simple, quick one. What safety habits do you practice every day at work or at home? You can speak out if you are comfortable, or you can use the chat box. We are getting towards starting of our classes. What safety habits do you practice every day at work or at home? Let's say having the right PPE. I think this one is at workplace. Someone else, what is your daily? Like this one is a must for you when you're at work or at home. Hello. We don't practice safety at work and at home. Any safety practice, is it whether it is simple or complicated, you just share. Ivan has shared about dynamic risk assessment. Gladys is telling us that my 2-year-old not to go near water kettle and iron boxes, and toddler moms can relate to that. That's at home safety. Alexandra is telling us at home, I make sure that the gas cooker is off, which is very true. Samuel is telling us about toolbox talks. Okay. As we are finishing and preparing to start our classes, I just want to remind us about our objective for this masterclass. We have to understand that OSH beyond compliance, its roles to improving performance, We want also to explore how safety culture enhances efficiency and teamwork. We have also to share insight and practical experience from our work environment. Levis is sharing about safety habits, keeping tools in a safe place, in a store where they can't injure family members, which is very true and correct. Thank you for sharing, each and every one of us. I welcome you once again to our master classes. This has been just introductory part of it. We are now gearing to start our classes. That has been an awesome energy and a proven understanding of OSH. Let's now dive deeper to our OSH master classes as you help me welcome our facilitator of today, Gladys. I welcome you to take over from here. We can just put some applause in the chat box as we welcome her. Thank you so much for listening and being so active. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Vivian, for the wonderful work that you're doing. Thank you so much. That was a good introduction. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes,
are you able to hear me? Are you able to see me?
Yes, we can hear it.
Okay, so thank you so much. Yes, we can give a hand clap to Vivian as well. Give her a reaction. Yeah, thank you so much. That was a good way to start, having the energy up there. So it's exactly 7, so we will just start off the session. I hope you can see my screen. Hope you can see my screen now. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So as Vivian said, we are going to be talking about OSH Beyond the Basics and how occupational safety and health, or just safety in general, drives performance. My name is Gladys Wanjau, and I am part of the Indelible Impact team, and today I'll be your trainer. So even as we start, I want us to reflect on this question. Oh my, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah, I think now it's okay, right? I hope now you can be able to see without the side notes. So, yeah, so the question I want us to reflect on is, what if your greatest cost, and in this case, many companies, many organizations look at safety as a cost center. What if the OSH docket, what if the OSH budget, your OSH cost could become your greatest competitive advantage? That's a reflection question I want us to, have at the back of our mind as we discuss. What if we could, flip the script and change the mindset of the people that we work with or work for, and show them that OSH can be our greatest competitive advantage? So let's just put that at the back of our minds, and we'll be able to answer this question at the end of it. So I think in the beginning of every OSH discussion, or any major masterclass or training session where you're talking to people, they need to understand the why. So why do we need to talk about OSH? Why do we need to talk about safety matters? And I believe even for those who have done NEBOSH or even the OSH degree or the OSH postgraduate diploma or even the OSH master's class, the first topic that you usually encounter is this one: why OSH is important. And the 3 main pillars that we usually focus on is the fact that it's a moral obligation, because we are humans. It brings that issue of having that moral obligation to have that duty of care for the people who are working around us, for us, and with us. And then there's also now the issue of the legal compliance, which we discussed in the last session in October, both at a national level and even in an international level, whereby we've had laws and standards, international standards or best practices that are able to give us the bare minimum or the boundaries under which we are able to operate our businesses in regard to occupational safety and health. And then lastly, of course, there's the issue of the financial aspect, which brings in the direct and indirect costs of occupational safety and health. And this also we were able to cover quite comprehensively in the last class, which was covering the legal compliance and how it is the solid ground for any business venture or any organization. And we were able to look at the iceberg theory, whereby at the very tip of the iceberg, we were able to see that the direct costs, it's just a small part that everyone is able to see, just like the way the Titanic was, ignored the tip of the iceberg, not knowing that it would be capsized by the larger part, which was actually submerged. And we were able to look at using that analogy of the iceberg to be able to see that the direct costs are just a tip of that iceberg, while the indirect costs, cover much more. Things that we sometimes are not able to quantify when we are delivering our safety, budgets and all that. Things like brand equity, loss of tenders, loss of market share, and so many other aspects. So, but apart from that, because I know most of us have delved into having these three issues being highlighted as why safety matters, I want us to take a step back and just look at safety being personal. And what I mean is, wherever we are, just put a picture in your mind of that one worker that you probably are fond of, or you maybe hata ni mwenye anakuanga kichwa ngumu, wherever you work as a safety officer, as a safety manager, as a quality manager, just have a picture in mind of that one worker that probably either you're very fond of or is the one who is really adamant in terms of following the safety procedures. Like they don't really understand why OSH is important. They are more focused on the production. They are more focused on getting the job done. So in our case, we have, it could be Kamau, it could be Wafula, it could be Otieno, whoever they may be as on the picture. But I want us to see that even as we focus, or the company focuses on safety of Kamau or Njoroge or, Otieno or Wafula, I want us to look at safety with a bigger lens, at a bigger scope. That behind every Kamau, every Njoroge, there is actually people behind that person. There is the family behind them. Sorry, my slides are misbehaving a little bit. Let me check on this. So before we, just look at it as the three Y's, as moral, legal, and financial, remember that safety is personal, safety is human. That behind this Kamau, this Otieno, there is a family that is waiting for them to get home. Once, if by bad luck they get hurt, or if we are not taking safety seriously, the people who bear that cost, who bear that brunt at the end of the day, is that family that is left behind, or is left nursing his wounds or her wounds. So even as we delve deep into this topic today, also have that at the back of your mind. So, of course, as we look at OSH, there are the key terminologies, which we will just go through very quickly, because this is not the bulk of our discussion. We obviously know that there's the issue of the hazards, and it's mainly the fact that it's the potential to cause harm. It's something, it's a source, it's a substance, it's a situation that has the potential to cause harm. So the key word being potential. And I want you to keep this word potential in mind as we go through the discussion, and we'll look at how it plays on the ground, like in the actual organization, as we are having discussions probably with the top management or with other peers in the same organization. There's the issue of risk, which is basically a combination of the likelihood as well as the severity, and that's how we are able to have the risk, or even be able to do the risk assessment and have that risk rating. There's the issue of health. Health here being not just the physical, that someone is not, injured, but also the mental well-being and the social well-being. Then we have the issue of safety, that it's the absence of, an unacceptable risk. So we need to gauge what is acceptable and what is unacceptable, because risk is all around us, hazards are around us. Then we also have the issue of the worker, who is anyone performing works either under the control of someone or on behalf of someone. There's the issue of welfare, the facilities, the conditions that help the person to have that comfortable economy. Kindly assist by muting. Okay, thank you. And efficiency. Yolanda, kindly. Then lastly, the last two would be, are we okay now? Yeah, so the last two would be the workplace, which is basically the place where you're working. And I want us to look at a bigger scope, even as like the salespeople, the sales rep who work mostly on, driving, or even the truck drivers who are mostly on the road. So the truck there becomes their workplace. And then, of course, there's the issue of occupational hygiene, which is the science of preventing all these illnesses and identifying and controlling the workplace risks. Then we have the issue of this tripartite responsibility. I think when we were doing the warm-up, before we started the session, there was a question about whether it's everyone's responsibility. And indeed, we have clustered that into these three major players, which is the government, who are able to set the laws and the standards and the policies, in this case being the Ministry of Labor and specifically DOSH. We have the employer, who is the one, who has established the institution or the organization, and is able to have the responsibility to ensure that there is the duty of care, to be able to have safe working conditions, controlling the risks, training the employees. And I think we are able to understand this even better from the OSHA Act, Chapter 6, where the employer has all these stipulations to look into. And then, of course, there's the issue of the worker. They also have a part to play to be able to follow the procedures, to be able to wear their PPEs and also preserve their PPEs, and then report the hazards and participate in decision making, mainly through the OSH committee or any other forum where the workers' voice is able to be heard. Now, the question I want us to ask ourselves, among these three, what or which one do you think is our weakest link? Maybe I can hear from one or two people. I'm alluding to the discussions we had during the legal compliance session. And there was an issue about, we were discussing, and someone pointed out that sometimes as safety or quality or environment officers and managers, we are playing our part, we're training the people, we're trying to do the right thing. But at some point, we feel that probably either the employer or the government is not doing their part fully. So maybe I can hear from one or two of you on the chat box. Who do you think is our weakest link and why? I can see more people have joined. Karibuni, thank you for joining our session. You can use the chat box. The employer. Okay. Lois says the employer. Maybe what's your reason, Lois? And anyone else who is going to, submit their answers. Why would you think maybe the government is our weakest link, or the employer is our weakest link, or the workers? And I don't want us to dwell here so much because of the bigger discussion is ahead of us. Just quickly. Any other contribution? Lois, probably why the employer? Otieno says employer because they think safety is expensive and it's a burden to them. Okay. Yeah, and that sets the precedence of what we are going to be discussing today. The cost of equipment and material involved is high. The employer, okay. Thank you so much. Mercy says the government. They set the regulations and sometimes do not provide clear guidelines on implementation and enforcement. Yes, I totally agree with you. In terms of, how you perceive, all these angles that we are looking at. I feel no one says the workers are also, letting them down or something like that. Is there anyone who thinks the workers could be the weakest link? Am I missing any other person? The employer, the organization. Okay. Yeah, so depending on probably the industry you're in or the organization you're in, or even the experiences you've had, at some point in your operations, you will feel probably the government is the weakest link, probably because they've given you the law, but you have no understanding of how to implement the law, or sometimes it's quite vague to understand it, or it seems not relevant or a bit complicated for you to adopt it. Sometimes it could also be, arising from, issues like corruptions or shortcuts, and that came out in the last discussions, whereby probably you're doing the right thing, but then due to corruption and shortcuts, you're not able to achieve even that compliance. In terms of the employer, and we're going to be looking now at how to even be able to surmount those challenges of explaining the budget and how OSH can be used as a driver of performance. Okay, so some of the common management systems are like the ILO OSH of 2001 and the ISO 45000 of the current version, which we're using, is 2018. And of course, we expect some changes in 2027. But I will not want to look into this so much because we are going to be having that free ISO masterclass. So we will have a better discussion about how these management systems are able to support you as the OSH officer or the OSH manager, and how this PDCA cycle and the clauses, how they come into play in terms of establishing that solid OSH management system in your organization. Now, this is where the meat of the discussion is, how to have that paradigm shift to be able to move from us seeing OSH as a cost center, but instead to be able to see it as driver of performance, as a way of investment in our workers and even in the organization, and as well as having it as a competitive advantage. So let me paint a picture for you. Supposing you are the chief advisor of the top athlete in Kenya, probably Eliud Kipchoge, and you're busy telling them you shouldn't spend so much of your time training. the training you've done is already good enough. Supposing, they're having their race coming up in the next 1 week, and you're busy telling them, it's okay, whatever training you've done now is good enough. You don't need to even look too much into the diet. What you need now to focus more on is that you don't get hurt, that you don't get injured. You now need to take more precaution as you walk, as you go around your business, as you drive, just to make sure you don't get injured before your big race. Do you think, this kind of advice would help such an athlete to be able to win their race? Do you think such advice would be able to help them, navigate and be able to win their race? Is that the mental state that you'd want them to be in? I don't think so. I don't think there's anyone who would want to advise their top athlete to stop wasting time on extra training, on nutritional, advice and all that, and just focus on not getting hurt. Same case would be put in when you have a car or any machine. You don't really, service your car to avoid it breaking down. Instead, you usually have that service to ensure that it's working at its best. Similarly to your phone, you don't, put in the updates with the fear that it will break down. Instead, you do it so that it can be more efficient and it can help you in terms of performance. And this is the mind shift that we want to have during this discussion, to be able to move from, fear and compliance towards having it pushing strategic performance and strategic competitive advantage. So basically, the safety practices should not be seen as a distraction from the game or winning the game. Instead, they should be able to help you as a continuous, regimen that allows you to win the game. And that is where the paradigm shift should be in terms of using OSH as a driver of performance. So let's watch this video and see if you can relate.
Once again, yet again, once again, yet again, Let It Burn LLC with another disastrous development. Imagine nyumba yako inaungua, alafu caretaker anafaa kupitia through 369 keys kutafuta yenye inafungwa ya fire extinguisher. Alafu after the incident caretaker anaambiwa you are fired na ni wewe umeungua. Hapo unaambia watu you are living in hell, wanafikiria unaongea in metaphors, kumbe unamaanisha literally.
I know you've seen the video somewhere, maybe, probably. Or could I repeat it again? I'm sure you've seen it going around the social media. Maybe can I get a reaction of what you thought about it when you first saw it? Probably you've seen it on TikTok, and Mbogo is not the first person to, refer to it. Maybe I can get a few reactions on what you think about that video. Having, safety in mind and all that. Can you still hear me and see me? Just want to be sure I'm not talking to myself. You can unmute or use the chat box. What did you think about when you saw the video? Even if this was your first time or it wasn't your first time, safety-wise. What did you think about it? Anyone who wants to unmute and probably say something? Was the video clear? Were you able to see and hear what? Okay, not hearing, not too much, but any reaction? I'm not seeing any. Okay, yes. Having the fire extinguisher under lock and key beats the whole logic of safety. Yeah, True. It does. Any other reaction? Anyone else? Maybe you can use the chat box or you can unmute and we can hear what you have to say. So from Loise's comment that having the extinguishers under lock and key beats the whole safety logic. Why do you think this is the case? Why do you think they were under lock and key in the first place? Compliance met for having fire extinguisher on site, however, not accessible. Yeah. Sometimes we look at OSH, just to meet compliance. They've done a good thing. The landlord, the owner of the estate, whoever is managing the estate has done a good job. They actually have the extinguishers. I can even see they have the sticker, the inspection sticker. So I'm assuming they even inspected. But why do you think they would put it under lock and key? Or what was the mindset of the caretaker or the landlord or the the real estate the manager of the real estate? What was their mindset? Yes, isibiwe. Why? Because for them it's a cost, right? Having bought the extinguishers, it's a cost. They feel it's a cost. And they're trying to protect, their money. They're trying to protect this asset. Isibiwe. So there's an interplay there between safety and security. And I want us to ask ourselves, which one takes precedence? Maybe this is why OSH has always, taken a back seat and seen as a cost center rather than an investment, rather than a competitive advantage, rather than a strategic partner to performance. Because there is always this battle of the titans. Security says we need to lock these fire extinguishers. We need to lock the fire exit. Ndio watu wasitoke na vitu. Who remembers the incident at Nakumat? It was an unfortunate incident where there was a fire at one of the Nakumat. It's in the past, obviously. And the directive was to lock the doors so that people don't steal. Yeah. So I want us to look at this conflict between the different sections rather than the collaboration that should be. That would actually make other sections or other departments and even the whole, top management look at OSH as probably not a cost center or a derailer or a, something that's pulling the rest of the forces behind, but as a driver and as an enabler. I don't know if this will relate to you, but as I was just thinking about the different sections within the company, and I saw that video and it just clicked to me. I've been able to visit a few sites here and there where this is actually the case, where probably the fire exit of the warehouse is locked, is under lock and key. Why? Because the bigger risk from their understanding is that people will steal. They don't want people, getting the products out using that back door, which is actually a designated emergency exit. And now comes that, conflict, that interplay. Which one takes precedence? Is there a room for collaboration? Is there room for OSH showing security that they are also an enabler into them achieving their goal? The funny thing is that OSH and security are two sides of the same coin. They are both there to protect lives and property. And I think as we were starting, Levis mentioned that, when an incident happens, there are either two things that happen. Either there's the aspect of life or there's the aspect of damage to property. So the security and OSH are actually, two sides of the same coin. So how can, they collaborate rather than conflict? So that issue of access versus intrusion comes into play. Another example would be OSH versus environment. For example, for waste management. So you find a situation whereby the OSH manager does not want the people in charge of waste segregation to spend so much time, exposed to that hazard. But the environmental manager, especially in this day and age where we are really focusing on, pollution and waste segregation, they really want you to pinpoint each and every waste category and put it in the right place for the right waste treatment. So you will find that conflict between protecting the human versus the external workplace. Then there's also the issue of OSH versus food safety. Simple example would be something like the PPEs in a food production company, whereby the OSH person wants a more durable, a more long-lasting personal protective equipment that can be able to withstand to protect the person, while the food safety manager would be more advocating, a single use and a lighter, PPE, a lighter colored PPE, so that they can be able to spot it, from the food that they are handling. Another one would be zoning and exits. This again applies to areas of like food production, where you have very strict zoning and people are not allowed to move about. Instead, on the other side, the OSH manager would be looking at how are these exits, how are people able to move from one area to another. So we find there's a lot of sometimes push and pull, and some of these other dockets are able to articulate and are able to convince management of why their budget or why their stance is more solid than the OSH one. And we find ourselves sometimes, having that difficulty in trying to explain to top management or even to our peers, the different teams, on why OSH is important and how OSH can be able to be a key player in terms of, driving their performance, helping them be able to meet their own KPIs. Of course, another big one and quite obvious is, safety versus production. I think this is the most obvious one, whether in construction or in food production or in just general manufacturing. The fact that, people want the workflow to be faster, to be, more efficient. And safety seems like it's, too much of procedure. You have to, wear your PPEs, you have to put in the guards and all this, and they feel that these are barriers to them achieving their targets. And they feel that they need to do some shortcuts rather than, follow the safety procedure. Another big one is the safety of machine operations. We find that there's a lot of tug of war between safety and, operations, especially with machines. People want to take shortcuts in terms of, removing guards or, for that accessibility. There's also the issue of, purchasing the lowest bidder versus the quality or of the safety equipment or the safety PPE, or even when you're buying a new machine, you could find that probably a more expensive machine has better safeguards, and the company is pulled towards a more affordable machine that has less or non-existent safety machine guards. So we find that this push and pull and this conflicting interests also affects how safety is perceived in terms of when we are pushing for probably our budget to be approved and all that. But I would really think that we need to move from having that silo way of thinking or silo mentality and look at how we can be able to collaborate. In the last class, when we were discussing about how to be able to navigate the conversations with the top management, we talked about how we can be able to show common ground. And this is how we can be able to establish that rapport and that collaboration with different teams to show that safety is actually an enabler for production to reach its targets and its goals. And I think on one of the myths and facts, as we were starting off the session, was asking about if safety is followed, is it slowing down the system or making it more efficient? And essentially, we should be able to bring that collaboration and show how safety can be able to be an enabler to make the system flow much better. So what is the root cause of all this conflict and, all these contradictions between the different departments? Mainly because they see safety is too procedural. You have to do this, you have to follow the procedure, you have to have all these steps that you're following. Yet most of the times, maybe mainly because of the targets and the timelines that are set, people want to take shortcuts. So that becomes an area of, conflict and a place where there is a lot of issues between safety and these other business priorities. The other issue is where the business expects tangible and quick results. So for instance, probably production, sales, finance would be having, hard numbers or hard metrics that are measured probably hourly, probably weekly, daily. And these hard numbers translate into money, which is, tangible, as opposed to safety, where our main metrics is actually when we have nothing happening. Like when you have zero harm, when you have zero incidents, when you have zero injuries, that's when we feel that safety is working. Now, the problem comes in when you want to translate this ROI of safety into this non-event, which seems invisible in the eyes of, your peers or even the top management. So it brings in this conflict. Another issue would be statistics. So when we are able now to present our statistics as hardcore numbers, when we use matrices like the LTIFR, and we are giving these big safety numbers that we've been taught, as we journey, people are not able to see it as relatable. It becomes now abstract. Another issue is that now safety as a risk, in terms of, risk management, safety is very, it's something that you experience, it's something that you feel. So someone would be looking at numbers in the boardroom and seeing, the incidents rose by 20% or, the LTAs rose by 2%. And to them, it feels so abstract, it feels that it's not relatable. Because most of the time, sometimes we are not able to translate it to either money or something like that, where the board or the top management is able to understand. But in real sense, these statistics are actually people. It is that Kamau, it is that Njoroge, it is that Otieno, it is that Kipchoge, who are actually experiencing this risk of safety. And it boils down to having that memory of having lost a finger, or that trauma when you hear a sound and you remember, oh my gosh, we lost someone because of, not following safety as it were. So trying to relate these two things, the hard statistics and the abstractness of safety, and the fact that safety is experiential, there is that, de-link that we need to connect together to be able to influence or have a better voice as we discuss with our peers and as we discuss with the top management. Another issue would be the fact that lean management, which is a beautiful concept that focuses on, being very efficient, sometimes sees OSH as wasteful. A case in point would be, supposing you have an air receiver or even a boiler that has one valve, as opposed to one which has two valves. So one valve being a redundant valve in case the first one fails. So in a lean production or a lean setup, the boiler or the air receiver that has 2 valves would be seen as, redundant and, like an inefficiency of some sort. But in terms of safety, we see it as, as a way to have that business continuity in our minds, as a way to have, business resilience, to be able to have a buffer against the unseen. And no, trying to paint this picture of this unseen or the issue of probability. As I said in the beginning, hazards have so much to do with that probability, the fact of that potential having that power to cause harm. The issue of it being potential, or it sometimes feels abstract in the boardroom, or even when you're trying to negotiate on why you should have these redundant systems. And at the end, I think it all boils down into most of the sections, or even the mindset of the top management, looking at the business as short term in terms of having that long term look into business and resilience and that continuity. There's also the issue that you see for people like the sales team or the production team, they're able to have an end client in mind who is giving tangible money or outcomes, such as when you have a delayed shipment, there is that issue of you'll probably have incur a specific cost. And like for safety, who is actually the beneficiary of when people are safe? It could be a future employer, it could be a future employee. The unknown beneficiary brings in that abstractness that makes it difficult for people to understand why you're really pushing for safety. So some of the solutions we can put in so that we are able to align with the other teams and be able to make our voice be heard as safety professionals are being able to look at the overall equipment effectiveness with safety in mind. Things like preventive and autonomous maintenance, whereby you're not just waiting to repair the machine when it's broken, but you are looking out, you're being proactive in looking at having that maintenance being done before even the machine breaks down or even before an incident occurs. Issues of like job rotation, being able to move into different workplace, the different jobs within the workplace, where you can initiate programs like the job rotation. I've seen one of the companies that has quite a robust job rotation program, and they call it in his or her shoes. So what happens is that different managers are swapped at different times. So if you're the quality manager, at one point you will be given a day or two to run the safety docket. So once you have this job rotation, you're able to feel the pinch of these different departments. And that way, that can bring more collaboration and remove this silo mentality. Then we can have more ideas like the Stop Work Authority, which is whereby you have empowered all the workers to be able to know what is safe work and what is unsafe work, and they're able to stop when they are being forced to do unsafe work. There's also the issue of having the toolbox talks. I think one of us mentioned that. There's the issue of looking at the full cost of incidents. Again, I refer to the iceberg theory, whereby the direct costs are easy to calculate, but the indirect costs sometimes are a bit more difficult to calculate. And the push from the last time's discussion was that we need to collaborate with people like the HR teams and the finance teams to be able to understand these indirect costs and how they can be calculated, so that even as we present our case on why OSH is important, we are able to give these figures to the top management for them to be able to see the full cost of incidents, and not just the direct costs for incident management and things like the cost of the medical cover or even the premiums. We need to look at, if there was a lost time, what is the cost of having another person replace the person who was injured, the cost of training them, the cost of, recruiting someone new. So all these things can be able to help us to be able to put in a better case for OSH to be seen as an enabler of performance and as a driver of performance. There is need for us to be able to market our safety records, use safety as our competitive advantage. I've seen mainly international companies being able to really leverage on these safety records, such as in terms of like when you have, 0 accidents for this number of days, you're able to show that to investors and all that, and they're able to see that you take safety seriously, and how that safety is translated into the workplace being more efficient and having even better quality in your systems and in your products. So there is need for us to be able to find ways to collaborate with the different teams and to be able to inculcate a culture where safety is, part of the whole system and not a standalone docket. So now we want to just see how we can move, that mindset from having the issues of incidents and downtime, and it boils down to even having lost revenue and low morale, and how we can turn things around using safety to be able to have more engaged workers who bring in more productivity, and that results to better quality and profit to the company. And this is the mindset shift that I would want us to be able to inculcate in our different organizations, so that they can be able to see that safety is a driver of performance, and it is able to bring in the best out of each and every department if it is taken seriously. So of course there is the part that leadership plays, the part that what we were calling the employer. They have to be the catalyst. They need to walk the walk and talk the talk, not just say that we are safety conscious, but they need to lead from the front. They need to set that the right tone. They need to be able to give you the resources to be able to actualize the different aspects of the safety budget. They need to be the architect of the good or the positive safety culture. And we will look at this in depth when we go into the ISO class, how leadership, which is clause 5, is a key driver of inculcating the right culture and setting the tone and what their responsibility is. There is also the issue of the mindset shift in terms of being able to be more predictive and more proactive rather than being reactive, to be able to move into business excellence rather than just being at the lowest level, which is compliance. I don't know if you have been in a situation where you are in a workplace where they're at their lowest level, where safety is just taken, they only do it just so that wasishikwe na the different authorities. When we use probably the Hudson, maturity levels, we are able to see that at the lowest level, that's when people are, just doing it for compliance sake. But we want to move to a place where it is part of their culture and it is part of who they are, that safety comes in naturally. Then we need to match, shilling for shilling and talk the business language, which is how safety can be used strategically to be able to help in the ROI by saving lives, by saving the cost of the company. Then we are able to show how much have we saved the company, or how much more has the company been able to earn by safety being adhered to and improving the system? Then lastly, we need again to partner with not only our peers, but also the workers. They need to be participants in the decision-making process. And this is where OSHA and even the international standards like ISO 45000 talk about workers' participation and workers' engagement, through the OSH committees and any other area where the workers can be able to give out their pain points so that we are able to improve. And this is what I guess some of us were talking about, hazard identification, to be able to take part in such processes so that we are able to improve the system. So before we get to this part, probably I would want to just hear from you guys, just so that I know I am still together with you. What are some of the lagging and leading indicators that you usually measure in your workplace? And how hard or easy has it been for you to be able to translate this to your management in terms of, the management review discussions, or explaining to them how safety performance is working? What are the leading or the lagging indicators that you usually measure? You can unmute or use the chat box. Have I lost you? I just want to know if we're still together. Leading indicators, safety stand down every Wednesday. Okay. Eric, if you can be able to unmute, you can be able to say something about the safety stand down. How has it? Yeah.
In our company, so every Wednesday we have got the safety stand down. So in this stand down, there's a safety topic that is being presented by different departments. In every department, they appoint one person comes up with a topic, like if it's a fleet, come up with something to do with the vehicles maintenance or safety on road safety. Then if it's a PM, that is the BTS PM, they will come with the safety measures that have been followed in the site and while doing the maintenance. If it's fiber, some of the safety measures that they're supposed to pull out when they're doing it. If it's our warehouse, the safety one person that has been appointed in the warehouse will present it, so that some of the safety measures they come up with.
Okay.
So in standard, that is actually basically what we do in our company.
Okay. How have you been able to measure? Is it part of your matrix, like part of your report? And how has it been helpful for you in terms of, helping the company become better or more efficient?
Like it's a matrix. Like in 3 months, it will be done. Like they take like how many topics have been done, then how many. It's like even they like the time we are doing we are doing refreshers in inductions. Those are the things like they tend to ask in different departments. Like in month of May, do you have an opinion of this topic? Which part didn't you understand?
Now, just to throw a spanner in the works, have any of you encountered when you have the, the safety stand downs or the toolbox talks, them being seen as a waste of time? Have you encountered such challenges, either Eric or any other person? Because some of these tools that we use,
basically there are positive side and negative parts. Like I can say, some of the technicians will normally say like, why do we waste the 30 minutes or 1 hour every Wednesday? And some of the things that you people discuss, we already know.
Yeah, this is some of the challenges that we face as the safety professionals. So we need to find ways or tactics on how to be able to show them the value of why we are doing them. Even for the for the stop work authority, I've seen some cases whereby it is misused, especially when it is not introduced properly, or even when the maturity level of probably the company is not at the right place. You find it being misused in terms of, when people don't want to do a specific task, they stop, they stop the work, and now it becomes a whole issue whereby now you're being called as the safety professional to determine this case, whether it is unsafe work or is it safe work. Yeah, any other person who has used any of those tactics, and what reactions have they gotten, or any other leading and lagging indicator that you measure in terms of safety performance? Anyone else? Anyone else who measures safety performance, either through leading or lagging indicators, or has employed any of those tactics that we were talking about, but has, faced a challenge or two? Okay, so when it comes to safety, first we need to get our our matrices right. We need to first understand what we are measuring and why we are measuring, so that the data that we produce will be able to speak into the major data being produced by other parts of the company, and to see how it can plug in and to be able to give the top management a better view of what is happening. So the lagging indicators are mostly things that have already occurred, or what we can call the failures or the incidents. So, when you're tracking the incidents through the calculations that we do, looking at the lost time matrices, some of these lagging indicators, you can also collaborate with other departments, such as the employee turnover. So, of course, the HR department mainly will be looking at this as their own KPI, but it can also be helpful to you as an OSH practitioner in building your case on showing how safety is a driver of performance. As we have seen in that the previous slide, where the vicious cycle is an incident happens and people lose morale and they leave, and now it goes back to affecting the productivity and the performance of the company, and it comes again to more cost in terms of recruiting more people, inducting more people, and onboarding more people again. We want to move from that. So you can collaborate with the HR department to be able to see how the employee turnover correlates with the safety aspects. And if you are able to see that correlation, and you're able to see that the two of you can be able to build a case, then it helps you to show management that OSH is not only just taking away from the budget, but it's also supporting other departments, and it's helping you drive performance. Because when people are trained, when people know what they're supposed to be doing, and people are safe, it builds their morale, and this improves their productivity and their performance. When you're tracking things like improvement or stop orders from the government, that is a lagging indicator, and this is at that lowest level, as we said, of that maturity ladder, where people are just doing it for the sake of compliance. But we want to help your companies or your organizations to be able to move from that lowest point to be able to move all the way to where they are integrating occupational safety and health in each and every business process. You can also track how the insurance premiums are, going up, or the compensation costs, such as, WIBA and, the medical expenses that are being incurred. And of course, this information is usually not privy to the OSH team unless you're the one handling, like the WIBA claims and all that. But you can collaborate with the finance team and the HR team to be able to have a better understanding of this indirect and direct costs and have the actual figures. And in this way, you'll be able to build a better case as you do your quarterly or monthly reports, and be able to justify probably why you need your budget to be approved, or why you'd need, the different safety investments, either whether it is, a training that is required, or even PPEs, that can help you be able to talk at the management or the strategic level. Monitoring the absenteeism, this can be an indication of, work stress and things like that, or even sickness. You can be able to monitor, using the medical surveillance and all that, if there is a correlation between the occupational health side and the absenteeism, as well as things like fatigue, or even, the way the economics of the company is, that can affect people and cause them to have issues of absenteeism. Then there's the issue of monitoring the system failures and how and the asset damage. This can also give you some insight into how safety is coming into play when we look at probably fires which have come about, and there's asset damage, or even like the sales team, how they are moving into different counties using vehicles. You can look at how many of, in as much as probably the sales team is saying they have achieved their KPI of 1 million sales, what at the back end, how many incidents have come about for them to be able to achieve this target, and how much probably asset damage has been incurred, how many vehicles have gotten into incidents, what are the premiums that have been incurred from all these incidents. So safety should be able to have that keen eye, in as much as other departments are showing that they're able to meet their hard matrices. You need to look at the flip side of it. At what cost, and what is that invisible cost that the management is not seeing, that you can be able to translate and show that safety is able to bridge that gap. In terms of the leading indicators, and this is what we should really focus on, we should monitor things like the near-miss reporting, which gives us now an indication of things to come. And we are able to anticipate the incidents and all that, and be able to even prepare the teams better to be able to reduce on the costs of incidents. So there are others like what you have talked about, the toolbox talks, the safety meetings. You can do the gambas and the walkabouts to be able to have an understanding of the workplace, and to be able to have to be at the workplace with the people at the shop floor to be able to identify risks together with them. There's the issue of the integrated management systems. This reduces that interconflict between different departments. So whereby you are able to sit together with maybe the security team or the food safety team and be able to do one integrated risk management, so that all sides of the coin are looked at. So basically, we want to be able to have safety that is inculcated into the design and the planning process. We want to have workers who are engaged. We want to have higher productivity levels. We want to increase the quality and the profitability. And this all goes into a cyclic way in terms of if safety is considered at the design stage or it is implemented on a day-to-day planning, then the workers are also engaged in terms of them being able to identify the hazards and the stressors that are there, the safety stressors that are there. Then they are able to be more empowered and be able to feel as part of the decision-making process. This motivates them to have, higher performance and productivity and be able to now have the results of greater profits and better quality. So, but how do we move this into a step-by-step process? What we can do is, start small, start by having at least 3 leading indicators and 3 lagging indicators that you are monitoring to be able to start collecting the data. You can use things like the near-miss reporting to be able to understand how the culture is. Are people fearful? Are people engaging? Are people being able to voice out the different hazards and the different near misses that they are experiencing so that you can take action? There is things like the corrective action closure rate. If you're doing the audits, how fast are people correcting those issues? If there is the investigations, how fast are people closing out the corrective actions? This will help you know the culture in terms of follow-through and follow-up of the different aspects that have been found. So you can be able to start small by monitoring at least 3 indicators and start building up your occupational safety and health data. Then be able to correlate and determine that relationship between the leading and the lagging indicators. So here we have the example that, for instance, if you have a lagging indicator like the DOSH notices, and you're tracking that as a lagging indicator, it can be an indicator that your system is actually failing. If you're experiencing, so many DOSH notices, it shows that there's something wrong with your overall occupational safety and health management system. And then you can correlate that with how fast the corrective action are being closed. If that correlation, is proportional, then you're able to now tell your story. And this ability to tell a story to management is what helps you be able to show that safety is a driver of either performance or an enabler of the workplace having more value and continuous improvement. So it helps you foster that accountability when you're pairing the lagging indicator with a leading indicator and you're able to tell a story about that correlation. Then you need to also communicate these aspects to both the top management as well as the workers, probably through the stand downs or even the HS committee. And then lastly, you need to be cognizant of your context, the context in which is probably organization or even the Kenyan law. Look for matrices that align to your own company strategy and your own company setting. So basically, the paradigm shift should be able to help us to move from safety being seen as, the leaking bucket where we are always putting in a budget, for trainings, for PPE, for all these aspects of safety, and yet there is no results, maybe proper probably, the incidents are still high and all that. How do we then move that to be able to show that the safety aspect is able to drive performance? There is the issue of, having a safe workplace and engaged workers helps you have less turnover, brings in more innovation, brings in more productivity. When you have safer processes, then you're able to have more quality and better delivery of the productivity aspect. And when you have, a better workplace, which is safe and you have good reputation, then you can use this as a competitive advantage and be able to attract more clients and better talent. So that is the paradigm shift that we need to have to be able to demonstrate that OSH is able to move from just being a cost center to become a driver of performance. So as we close, we can reflect on this question. When you look at your own safety budget, do you see it as a cost that is just being managed, or is it an investment to the potential of the company's performance? That is food for thought as we close out the session. I would want to receive any question and answer any questions that there could be. I know I've gone a bit off by 10 minutes. If there is any question, I can take up the questions. Vivian, I can hand over back to you. Is there any question? Any question or any comment, any contribution? So as we close out the session, just want to remind you about the 14th. Can I get a sample piece like the one you're using? Sorry, no, I did not get what you mean. Can I get a sample piece like the one you're using? Could you unmute, probably? Otieno, if you can probably unmute so that I understand your question.
Okay, I was asking for a sample presentation piece, the one you're using to...
The presentation will be shared to you. You'll be able to access it on Seller. We will be able to upload it probably by Tuesday, latest. Then you'll be able to download it on Seller and have access to it.
Oh, okay, like the one you're using?
No, the one I'm using, the actual template I'm using.
Okay, so
you'll have it, you'll be able to access it on Seller on Tuesday.
all right.
Yeah. So next week, we are going to be having the practical session. So what happens, we're going to give you a case study to look at over the week. We're going to have you in pairs, and then you'll be able to look at the case study and use your different experiences and knowledge to be able to answer a few questions. And in the different pairs, you'll be able, or groups, just to reduce the number of presentations, we'll be able to present on the 14th. Just tell us what you found out from the case study, how you're able to answer the questions, and then we'll have now an open discussion and be able to conclude the session. So we welcome you for the 14th, which is the practical session. Yeah, I hope it was insightful. I hope it was you've gained one or two things. Yeah, thank you, Lois. I see that you have commented. It was an insightful session. Thank you. If there is no other question,